Hi, everyone. Welcome to Rough Times. Today, we're going to be talking about our summer drumline program, which is coming up very soon on April 17th. We're going to be over specifics of that, and we're just going to see where the conversation goes. Kind of talk to you about why we're doing this, what we hope to get out of it, why we see the need for it, and yeah, it should be a great time. So this Saturday, we got the new Epic Summer Drumline program starting up. We got the Epic Cadets Drumline, which is 5th graders through 8th graders. For younger kids, which is going to be structured like an indoor line. They'll have their own set of equipment. And then we have we don't really have a name for it, but the older kids drumline. Well, not really kids, but high school kids and college age. Super excited about that. What are you guys most excited about?
No rules. Still no rules.
Still no rules.
Just start playing ukulele.
Yeah.
Start playing ukulele.
He said no rules.
Oh my word.
Oh, like,
Then we
do we actually hire him yet?
It's
no.
not too late.
new drums.
Yeah,
always.
new drums showing up on Wednesday. Coming in on Wednesday, we got Pearl Carbon Core marching snare drums, tenors, and bass drums coming in on Wednesday.
Still got that sweet MCM residue.
It's gonna be awesome to start. Killer deal on those drums because MCM used them with the COVID season or whatever. They only used them for 10 days, so it's gonna be awesome. They're gonna be like brand new.
Like new.
They give him the love they deserve.
Yeah.
There's a joke in there, Mark.
Yeah. Super excited about that. Can't wait to start the season off with really good gear. We got some nice Adams gear for the front ensemble too, and yeah, we got 2 synths, Pearl drum set cart. Got decked out with gear. It's gonna be sweet. It's gonna be awesome to start a program from the ground up with good gear on day one.
So that's
Oh, we need to get some swag. We got some
That's
over
true.
there.
We should probably think of a name for the older ensemble.
Epic Cadets too.
I mean, I guess it could just be Epic.
Epic Cadets too.
Epic Cadets Winter Percussion.
Yeah.
Oh, I think maybe I guess we should call it Epic Percussion. I don't know.
Like
We were
EC2.
last time we were doing an indoor season type thing. We were going to call them Epic World as a joke.
It is an Epic.
That's kind of a funny joke though. I would like if a group came on that's like, oh, Epic World, I'd be laughing, and as soon as they start throwing down, I'd be like, yeah, that's Epic World. Like,
This isn't just World; it's
Yeah.
Epic World. But yeah, excited about the new drums. I think we got pretty good energy going into this. I think gonna have a good turnout.
I'm excited of the fact that, like, I mean, I don't want to like gas ourselves and be like, oh, we're pioneering something, but the idea that we're going to be able to structure the performance and cater it to like the audience and get them more involved, which is really like one of my favorite parts of the activity we talk about all the time, like audience interaction and like the audience hyping up the kids. And if the way we're formatting it with the warm-ups and like explaining to the audience what to look for and like maybe even doing some kind of like introduction with the kids, like it's going to be really good, I think, for literally everybody, because there's a lot of people that want to go out and support the marching arts or do, like, I don't know, like your uncle or your cousin, and they have no idea what's going on, but like if you give them like the slightest bit of insight, they'll be able to appreciate the performance way more and like be able to hype you up way more. And that multiplied times however many people are there is going to be like a good amount of energy going into the performance
And
from both like performer and audience.
May I say, at a fraction of the cost.
Oh,
This
yes.
isn't like some $5,000 bill. We had some ensemble resembling this a couple of years. Actually, last year. Was it last year? This COVID thing's really messed with me.
Yeah.
Maybe it was two years ago.
Yeah,
Epic Cadets.
it was almost 2 years ago. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna say it. There were thousands of people over the course of the season that saw them, and they were on their feet, and they paid not $5,000. So, I mean, this is going to be every bit as fulfilling as doing your summer program. I'd do it if I wasn't so old.
I mean, I don't want to sound like corny here, but my mom put a comment up, and this is unprovoked. I didn't, my mom shares everything I put up, but she actually commented on the post about this and was just like, I wish that this existed when Marc was coming up in the activity, because he would have been able to participate in it without having to sacrifice so much.
Yeah.
And that was I don't want to get emotional, but like it was really cool it is important to me to be able to make it better for kids than it was for me. You know what I mean?
What'd you sacrifice?
I a lot of hours at Wise Markets and selling tons of Krispy Kreme donuts out the back of a pickup truck,
That sounds.
So there's where they
door
came
to
from.
door, in Sunbury,
Those
PA.
They're
Please-
still out there somewhere.
Please buy them. There's a few boxes that were never delivered. If you were supposed to receive one of those boxes of Krispy Kreme donuts, I apologize. They are no longer good.
That's great.
Yeah, they're a little stale.
It's like those McDonald's cheeseburgers after
I
20
was
years.
just thinking
And
that.
Charlie
Yeah.
Hawk, Charlie Hawk, I thank you for the use of your pickup truck.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. So, question for you, Mark, Ryan, and Paco, if you have an answer for it. What's your idea for the future? Like, what's your 5-year plan for this summer drumline program?
Dude, that's a lot of
I
pressure.
was like, you
Zach.
got to start first.
Well,
Big man's
we
gotta
got
start first.
okay. How much do we want to say? We got plans to start a circuit with this. Our plan to get this off the ground this year is to just provide a model for what this could look like, and limiting the amount of travel, the amount of contact, and everything, trying to be safe with the COVID thing. But to get a model out there and take lots of video and to promote the idea, because I think it's easier to sell an idea if you have something to show people than if you're just trying to explain it, or you know what I mean. Like, I think if people see, oh, this can exist, then they buy into it, rather than if you're just trying to sell them on, hey, I have this idea, because that's easy. But if you show them like, hey, this is the idea, and here's how you're doing it, and here's how we're doing it, I think people will buy into it. So I think that's cool, and that's kind of all we're trying to accomplish this summer, other than just having an awesome time drumming with these guys and providing a good experience. But also, like, I'm hoping that people will buy into the idea of, if you're running and I think at the beginning it's going to be a lot of high school participation in it. So my hope is that a lot of people see this as an opportunity to, this is cheaper than indoor. We don't have to rent rehearsal space. We don't have to fight with the basketball team for gym time. We don't have to, you go out in the parking lot.
You don't have to
You know what I mean?
unload and reload in the snow.
Yeah,
This is-
go out in the parking lot, practice. You don't have to have a floor. You don't have to have theatrical uniforms to get a fair shake. Having the audience participate in the general effect side of it, and letting them decide what's cool and what's not. We're kicking around some really cool ideas about limiting production expenses
beat me to it.
and limiting like how much they can charge students to participate in this, to kind of like quell the arms race a little bit, create an equal playing field, and focus on the mission of like providing an affordable, accessible outlet for the activity, to try to combat the rich kid sport thing that this is turning into. So
Actually, Mark and
or
I were
turned into it, I should say.
Oh, that's absolutely. We were discussing a couple days ago that the other thing I think we're really keen on doing is allowing the public to understand what's going on. So the folks that aren't generally involved with the marching activity, who might enjoy some high level performance, but generally aren't in the circles that would, particularly in the marching activity would be around. It would be great to start appealing to some folks that weren't in the drum corps, WGI, marching circles, right? Mm-hmm. I think some mass appeal. I mean, of course, I'm saying this at a time where this hasn't even gotten off the ground yet. But I think if we build in some of that appeal, particularly with things like allowing the crowd, allowing the audience to participate in some of the more qualitative, aspects that maybe judges would have participated in a normal circumstance.
Well, the effect.
Exactly.
I think like one of the things that drives me a little bit crazy, and I actually got into a little Facebook discussion on this. Keyboard Warrior did a little bit.
You're a keyboard warrior?
Yeah.
No way.
I'm not even a boomer.
Got it.
But one of the things that I don't. One of the things that bothers me about the activity today is, in most circuits, especially at the top of the activity, the general effect is evaluated by experts, and basically those experts are telling us how we're supposed to feel about a show, and like, I just think like what it creates is a system where, you have 20 people deciding the direction of the whole activity because they're deciding what's effective and what's appealing. And sometimes it's like very obvious that what is winning effect is not what is hitting with the audience. And I think that's like kind of catastrophic for the activity, and for putting fans in the seats. And there's just always like this increasing level of sophistication, and I'm not opposed to that. But if you are sophisticated and nobody likes it, then who cares?
Amen.
I had a
Yes.
really like following up. I was thinking about it as you were saying it. Is like it's like and this is not a jab at modern art, but it's like you look at modern art and like it's like everybody's telling you like, yeah, you should appreciate this. This is great. Like this is something that you should really appreciate. And it's like I don't get it. So like what, or like when somebody makes like an overtly artistic movie or something, and you watch it, you get to the end, and you're like, that was awful. Like I didn't enjoy that movie at all. And everybody's telling you like, oh well, it was directed by this guy and who and it had these people and these actors. And it's like it could have all these elements, but if like it's not hitting like that X factor or whatever it is that makes people get engaged, then like you said, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but it's just like what is the point at that point besides like producing your own art if it's like that's what it would be at that point.
That's a good point, though. We talked about this last week, right? Just because you participate in high levels of art doesn't mean every piece of art you make is going to be good art.
Yeah, we don't apply that logic to everything else in our lives,
right?
like.
Which is why I think we talked about in terms of, especially in WGI and DCI, where the upper echelons are really the ones making the rules. So they're telling the judging community like this is what you should should appreciate.
I've seen things where like somebody will go in and talk to the judges, and it's like they're preaching the gospel, and like they're just like it's literally the designers whose show is being judged are telling the judges what they're supposed to think.
Yeah, they're like learning.
Yeah.
So how are we going to do this differently with the circuit?
Well, the plan right now is like we don't have everything ironed out, you know what I mean? But we got a little time to put that all together. But the plan is to have the fans at the show deciding the effect score. Now we're still gonna have judges because you have to have expertise to evaluate things like the what and the how, what they're playing, the content, what the vocabulary, the skill sets that they're presenting, and how well they're executing that. I don't think a popcorn muncher can evaluate that, but I don't think we need an expert to tell them how they're supposed to feel about the performance.
Yeah.
Now, and I also think like, maybe that means we weight GE a little bit less than what it is in the rest of the activity. Cause I also think that, some circuits, when DCA did it was like 6 or 7 years ago, they came out with everything's entertainment. And then we're like, I'm getting percussion judge tapes and they're talking about the entertainment value. Like you turn the percussion analysis caption into GE. Like now we have 7 GE judges. What are we doing?
But did that concept make a difference on finals night? Like, could you?
I don't know, but like I have a hard time with somebody who's at field level telling us what's effective or not when it wasn't designed for their perception. Like, it's designed for the people in the stands. I don't know. It's just a weird. I understand the motivation to want to make it, make the shows entertaining. But at the end of the day, they did all that, and they had all these discussions about verbiage and stuff like that, and the results didn't change at all. So it's just a big,
funny how that
just
works.
a big waste of time.
I think,
I don't think anybody changed how they designed their shows either. Yeah. Everybody was like, yeah, and everybody did the same thing they always do, and they got the same results you always get.
Yeah,
Like,
I think.
Okay, cool.
Actually, my favorite part is the you talked about it, the production cap or whatever. Like it's gonna force creativity. Like you talked about it before. Like I or like as a part of my life, I play card games sometimes, and like they'll come out like with a ban list because like cards will get too expensive and people can't play the game anymore, and then people are literally forced to creatively come up with a new way to play the game, and it lets people who don't have the money to play the game get into playing the game. And eventually obviously there's like a circle where like the cards go up in price again or whatever, but like that I always love that sweet spot after they like ban stuff or like put a cap on something, because then it forces people to be. So I'm so excited to see the creativity that's going to come from having less money, and less is more, because you're forced to flex your creative muscles. You're not just relying on like, oh, we're doing a show about water, and you have like waterfall props, and you have all these water props, and like, oh, the show's about water, and it's like like you're doing it about something simple, but like it's being conveyed through, I don't want to say a lack of creativity, but it's like when you don't have access to those luxuries. You're literally forced to write around the concept or like design
But I
around
don't
the
even-
concept. And
I would even challenge the idea of having a concept at all. Like, if you go out there and just do cool stuff, and it's not tied together through some story or some conceptual thing, and the crowd loves it, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not opposed to that style of design, but like basically with the 20 GE judges or whatever, and the top designers in the activity holding hands and deciding what every show design should look like, you end up with a formula. So every show is structured that way. And I catch myself thinking like, oh, I got to think about this, I got to think about that, I got to do it this way, I got to do it this way, because there's right and wrong answers. None of those things are on the sheets. They're unwritten rules that have come up with because that's what we see getting rewarded. When one drum corps changes the uniform style, everybody follows
else
suit
does it.
after they win. When one drum corps starts using oversized props and they win, everybody follows suit. So we don't have, it's not really creativity, it's follow the leader.
Yeah. I think that we could.
You know what I mean? Like,
I think. Have you ever heard of Odyssey of the Mind?
yeah.
I think that we could draw a lot of ideas from that because like the students that participate in that, every prop that they make for their shows or their competitions has to be made by the students. So there's not allowed to have any outside help with it, and they're only allowed to spend a certain amount for their
that'd be
whole
sick.
entire production.
Interesting. Now, to be clear, though, we're not.
Actually, an interesting idea.
I like
It
that
is.
a lot.
To be clear, though, we're not saying we're limiting creativity. What we're saying
Not at all.
Is
no. What
be
we're
more
saying
creative
is
with the resources that you have available.
exactly. What we're saying
It's
is
money.
the winning or losing doesn't happen in an office in November.
Yeah. So like when I did Odyssey of the Mind when I was in 5th grade, we got to spend like $200, and these bunch of 4th and 5th graders had to build and paint, and we were supervised obviously working with power tools because we were in 5th grade, but we were responsible for doing everything. Like we had instructions on how to do it, but the entire concept was put up to us.
That's cool. That's definitely
love
something
that.
to look at. I mean, I like the idea of limiting it from a budget standpoint, just because we have to curb the arms race that it could turn into. But I do like the idea of, if you want to use something in the show, the students have produced it, and it's not just Broadway props that you had a company build. So that's a cool idea.
I really like that. Yeah.
But I also, I don't know, like to a certain extent too, I want this to be centered around the moving and drumming.
Yeah, more, it's about
and
the
not,
hands.
You know what I mean? Like I'm not opposed to having. I don't want to limit creativity at all. Like what bothers me about the activity today is like the keyboard warrior comment from earlier I was talking about was, I think it was about drum corps uniforms, and the conversation started with somebody saying something about the 2018 Santa Clara Vanguard show, which I love, one of my favorite shows of all time. But like, I don't think that like, I think you should be able to have that show, and you should be able to have like Madison 95 on the field in the same year, and they should be able to be competitive based on what people like. And it may be like one executes better than the other, and that's fine. But as far as effect goes, why is one more effective than the other? Because they design differently? Like
Well, the only parallel I can draw is like CGI in movies. Like a lot of the Transformer movies are awful, but the CGI makes them really good. Justice League was awful, but then some of the CGI was great. So it's like,
Yep.
yeah, I want to say like, no, like it shouldn't have an effect, but it does. Like it does. I literally enjoyed the movies more because of the CGI, even though the content was terrible.
As long as it's natural.
But you also might have another low budget film that has a great plot and great acting.
I agree. Yeah.
And then you have people vote on which one they like better. They don't have to be the same at all.
I think the only problem I can foresee at that is you would have to have extremely trained judges because you get people. I mean,
Well, I think this we're describing. We would have no
or no judge. Yeah, or no judges
for
I
that
guess,
particular
For
aspect.
effect, we're talking
Oh,
about.
okay, we're talking strictly. Okay, then
Everybody's
yes,
a judge.
Yes, you're right. You're right. Yes.
For as far as the judges go, it doesn't matter what the general design things are. Their job is to look at the expertise of like how well they're playing the snare drums.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So yeah. But I mean, we don't have it all. It's obviously all ironed out. This is something that we're planning for next season, but we will probably have that all ironed out by the end of the summer and
Yeah,
have
this
some
is
announcements out.
Yeah.
We just got to make sure we like structure it so like people don't find loopholes, kind of like people do with politics and like donation stuff. It's like, oh, we have a production cap, but the Paul Rennick is writing the book free of his time, and it's like,
Well, I actually that interesting because I had a good time for Jason with one of the people working on this who will remain nameless for the time being. Had a good conversation that like one of the things I want to make sure we do is structure this around, one thing I think is not a failure but a problem with other circuits is, and I don't know of any that are structured differently, but what I always see is like the directors of the ensembles make up the voting body of the organization. And I actually think that's problematic because what you always end up with is they're really representing their ensembles and they're not really making decisions for the best interest of the activity as a whole. So I think it's important to have like people making decisions. I mean, maybe it's split, maybe it's entirely them, but making decisions based on what's best for the circuit and not best for 6 groups in the circuit.
Because the natural result of that is the voting happens with people's wallets.
Well, I was gonna say, this is assuming this is. God, I hate generalizing. This is assuming people won't be selfish.
You can trace what people enjoyed and what people didn't by attendance to. I mean, aside from COVID situation, right? Aside from some huge mitigating circumstance, typhoons or whatever, you can trace the level of appreciation by just looking at attendance to large events.
Yeah.
So you vote with your wallet anyway.
Yeah. I mean, you're gonna. I don't want to.
We gotta require Neuralinks and track the synapses in people's brains when they watch the show, and whichever one fires the most.
And I'm not even saying the dollar is everything, but more of It would be great to get some new blood, knowing, and Mark, I'll even say yes, understanding the activity.
Yeah.
To the extent that I've said this before, the only people who know about DCI are the people who know about DCI, and sometimes occasionally they breed, and their kids then potentially know about DCI, and that's about it. If I hadn't been in a band that had some kids that did drum corps, there was no possible way I would have ever been educated that this activity even existed, and I think we can do better.
Well, I mean, even in North Jersey, when I was working with a ton of groups, a lot of them didn't know what drum corps was. And North Jersey is full, like, New Jersey arguably has the most.
It's a hotbed.
I think maybe, the only other state I could think of was California, right? That might have just as many drum corps.
Yeah, I don't even know if.
And I don't even think California.
Like, New Jersey had its own drum corps circuit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like the Garden
State Circuit. Yeah.
So and even those kids didn't know about it. Like, there were kids that lived within 5 minutes of Hawthorne that didn't know.
Well, and even knowing about it isn't the same as understanding. Like, me and Ryan had a really good discussion this week about, and this is a grandiose, over the top example, but the NFL wasn't always just the NFL that it is today. Like, you go back to like the 50s and 60s, they were making a marginal living maybe playing the game. What really changed it, based on, I'm not a football expert, but based on documentaries I've sat through, was the NFL films. And like what changed it was these NFL film guys got in the game. They put cameras on the sideline. They interviewed coaches. They interviewed players. They were at field level. You were hearing the guys hit each other. You were like inside of the game for the first time. It wasn't just a camera from the press box. And then people started to understand it because they were watching these conversations. It's like what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. They were watching these people have conversations. And it was open and honest conversations. It wasn't filtered like we don't want to say anything that's like...
We don't want to say anything that's true.
Straight up.
We talked about it. Somebody's already done that for drum corps. And it wasn't very popular at all. And it was on national TV. And it was still not popular. And I think had to do with that a little bit. How like it was very scripted. It felt very.
Oh yeah. Oh, you're talking about the rock thing? Yeah. It was so.
It's like I guess because like reputations and stuff at the higher level. I don't know. They're scared they're gonna say something. But like you take like the
little drama they did have felt manufactured.
Yeah, it's like you go to like a small drum corps with real struggles. I mean, not that big drum corps don't have real struggles.
I want to see.
But,
Well, just think about being in a drumline world, like man, and I've been guilty of this because. It's gotten to me before, but like we're afraid to put anything out that has a little bit of dirt in it.
I hate that. Like the amount I literally can't not roll my eyes when somebody's like, "Oh, well, what if it's dirty?" And I'm like, not like 90% of like drum lines are dirty. Like
Right.
by that
Like,
logic,
there's-
we should never put out any videos, and nobody should ever watch drumline. Like, come on, man. Like, it's
a little rub there. We can't put that
annoyed.
out there.
I get so annoyed.
And I like what I would like to see is I'd like to see like a inside a rehearsal, like we're having trouble cleaning in this phrase, and watch them go through that process, see the frustration, see the grind, like you know what I mean, like see the drama, like that's the
or the hard, even the hard work, like not even drama, just like see
the perseverance, see the accomplishment when they get it,
process, all of it. Like it's like the kids struggling in the heat, like that's literally what it is. And like when you try to dress it up as something it isn't, then that's what. I mean, if I had just not known anything about drum corps and watched that series, I'd be like, I don't think I really want to do that. Like, I don't know. This sounds really
drum
really
corps
whack.
is like it's like a 2-month montage. That's why it's hard to film.
That's very
it's like,
accurate. Yeah.
It's like that scene with Rocky, you know, running up and down the stairs. It's that for 2 months. So it's not a very easy medium to derive drama from, because most of the time you're just grinding.
But I'll disagree a little bit there, because I don't think, like, yes, the actual process itself, but the things that people say, the reactions that happen, like, to me, that's where the interest is, like the
getting called out from the box.
getting called out.
I
From
mean,
the
you
box,
could even like staff.
Yeah,
Like,
gotcha.
I mean, if you
Yeah.
really want to go all the way, like staff arguments, like admin arguments,
Yeah.
you know, like.
I also
design
think
arguments.
you want to clean up the activity, make everybody feel like a camera's on them all the time.
Yeah, and then
Like,
everybody's on their best behavior all the time.
Like maybe the best thing you could do to straighten out the problems that have existed in the activity. And I know I'm not saying this is everywhere or anything like that, but it's a thing, and we got to acknowledge that. But I think maybe the best way to acknowledge that is like put a light on it all the time. Like if there's always, maybe there's not always a camera around, but there could be. You know what I mean? And then I think people are going to think about how they act and what they.
I mean, it's like, you know, people being openly racist now aren't as openly racist because people get recorded and get whatever canceled and all that. Like there's always a camera. Like, I mean, obviously with the whole policing thing and all that.
I'm
like,
not saying like we should go after canceling everybody or anything
absolutely
like that.
not.
But I just think it'd be safer.
And it's also
be
just
safer.
accountability. Like you don't think about it. Like, I mean, also I feel like you don't try as hard. I'm not speaking. I mean, I am speaking for, obviously we've all been through it. But like if you're being recorded, you're like, man, I gotta be on my game. I gotta like, and if you're not like experienced or like you don't really care that much, then you won't really care, especially if a camera's off. Like you won't put as much effort in. Like even if it's reverse psychology where it's like, oh, I just want to like look cool in front of this camera, I would still rather have that than people not trying as hard. Like
on another note though, like one thing I think would be maybe bad at the beginning, but I hope people would get comfortable with it, is like that doesn't mean that it has to be like. One thing that drives me crazy with band is like, and I'm all about like not being toxically negative or anything like that. We talked about this
yeah,
today,
it's
but like
3 hours.
But I also think that like, you know, I don't think that band kids are delicate flowers that can't handle criticism. And I think like some people are afraid of catching those things on camera, like it's going to be detrimental. And then you'll go turn on ESPN and see a coach lighten up the team for 12 hours and it's like rah, go team.
And it's a high school team. It's a little league team.
I-
You know?
I had an experience with a group that I taught. I won't mention which one, but a parent was No, not a parent. Like a supervisor.
Little League is dead on.
A supervisor was like recording me, like talking to the kids about accountability and like you can't let these things go. Like you have to make sure that you're in it and like you don't let you're the instrument win. You don't let the pressure win. Like you're better than that. This and this. And I was talking maybe I guess you could use the word aggressively, but it was really just like trying to hold them accountable and trying to show them how serious I was. And this supervisor like tried to make a big deal out of it. They're like, oh, look the way he's talking to the kids, and sent it to all the parents of like the kids. And literally, I think it was 100% of the parents replied with, no, we love this. This is exactly why we let the kids do it. Like,
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah,
it's the
there's-
accountability thing. And I like, obviously you always think like, oh man, I'm like, as an educator, it's so hard
But
because
you know
like,
what?
I'm gonna get fired. Like,
You know
but
what's crazy about that though is like I bet he does not going down to the football coaches and doing that.
Yep. That's
Like, why is there a
right.
double standard there? That's ridiculous. And I'm sure it's way worse. Like, I'm sure I've seen high school coaches cursing their players out at games with the crowd in the stands
Yeah,
behind them.
there's a
Like, and I'm not saying that's okay. It's not okay. But like that standard of like, band is happy and we can never be negative. Like the end result is like we're trying to get excellence out of the kids, and sometimes there's a lot of accountability that goes with that, and a lot of frustration that goes with that, and you have to deal with it.
But the rewards are much greater.
Yeah,
That's the other side of this.
You're not as concussions are possible, but you're not as likely to get.
Yeah, but the other side of this accountability thing.
And some bass drummers wearing helmets.
Oh my god! Oh no! Now that it's out there now, it's gonna happen. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. No, but you guys know, on the other side of this, especially if cameras become involved and you start getting an actual following of people, you know, finding your location and going to seek you out. You remember that feeling of getting off the bus and just feeling like an utter rock star?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I that's something I think cameras could only help, or the exposure could only help with the mainstream crew. So it's not just accountability with your ensemble; it's giving them the experience of the level of performance where they feel like what they've done is meaningful, and a lot of people appreciate it.
Yes.
From varied. I love that. There was nothing. If the one thing I could say, if I did distill all my drum corps experience down to the one thing that I lived for every day, it was almost as much getting off of the bus and seeing that crowd of people standing there waiting for you.
Yeah.
Than it was just, you know, obviously in front of people and them standing up and stuff.
There's so many things you could do. Like, I imagine, okay, like you have an ensemble, they're warming up, right? You have the cadets drum lines warming up, right? And they finish up the warm up, and as soon as they finish up and they're coming off the field, you're there like, hey Tom, how was the warm up? Are they ready for the show tonight? And you're like, you know what I mean? Like, just like,
no, DCI did that. Like I told you, we were talking about it the other day.
but not.
DCI
I've never seen that. I've seen them record them like post performance.
Oh,
but
yeah,
never
like
okay,
right
you just
before.
wrapped up warm up.
There were a couple of years
How
I-
was the warm up?
Yeah.
There were a couple of years in the broadcast where I think they were trying to be sportsy, and it just came across as fake and superficial.
Yeah.
Do you
Well,
remember
and it's-
that?
because I don't think they're willing to ask. You know, when a team has a bad game in football, baseball, whatever, man, the reporters are like, they're asking tough questions to the coach. Sometimes I think it's like, man, it sucks to be that guy. Like, you know, the team's going into the locker room at halftime and they're down by 40 points and they're like, well, coach, how do you feel about the first half? Like, well, I'm afraid of losing my job and not being able to pay the mortgage. And, like, they're not like, what are they supposed to say? I don't feel good about this.
But there were a couple times where Steve Rondinero, if you remember, they did this with the Glassman.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Distinctly, it was like, did you see that form? And like everyone, I think who's watching it, to your point, is, well, I see that it's weird, so I understand why it's a foul, right? But I think it was too little too late, where it sounded like just disingenuous and weird to hear Steve Rondinero calling out a form that, you know, in a pre-recorded atmosphere with a Glassman, because it's just not something that's common, because it's for the kids or whatever the reason is. It sounds fake. And I think we could just do so much better by doing what we're doing here. Just be real about it.
To that note too, like I think that it would be kind of cool to have because one of the best seasons I ever had with ensemble was Alejandro. You were in this group, was Caballeros in 2015, and that drum line was on a tear, especially through the month of August. Like we were ripping it up.
Yes, we were.
We beat Buccaneers at a show. That was pretty cool. But we got to finals and we didn't have a good run.
Yeah.
It was not a good
sucked.
run. And, you know, I think everybody's like, you know, I went down to you guys and I was like, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't it. And, like, I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, what? Because I think that's disrespectful. Like, you guys are smarter than that. You knew what just happened. No, it wasn't, like, god-awful. But it wasn't the show we knew we could have had. And I just, like, talking to you guys, and I was like, it was a great talk. It's actually, like, of all the talks I've had over the years, that's the one I probably remember the most because it was the hardest one for me. Because the whole walk down to meet you guys, I was just like, what am I going to say? Like, I can't, they're not stupid. I can't go down there and be like, rah, rah, rah. I was just like, look, you know what? It wasn't the show we wanted. However, what an awesome season.
Yeah, that's what's important. Like,
you know what I mean? Like, okay, the 9 minutes of this season weren't exactly what we wanted. But, man, so many hours of all the awesome reps, all the great time. We didn't have any drama. Like, what an awesome season. What a great group of people. How much better everybody got through the course of that. You know what I mean? So that wasn't a failure.
No.
And I just think, like, you don't have to win to, like...
Yeah, you don't have to win.
And
for
you know
your
what?
season.
If somebody would have put a camera in my face coming off that performance, I'd be like, you know what? That wasn't the show we were that we were hoping for. But we'll see where the chips fall. And what's wrong with that?
No, there's
Like, what's
nothing wrong with that. So, sorry, I've had this thought, and I've been trying to interject like at a good point. going back to what Ryan said and why we're doing this, we talked about like the reason when we first started talking about this like idea and like the circuit, like because of the overwhelming popularity in percussion, and I'm always trying to like micro analyze like why it's such a big deal for percussionists and like what gives it that like factor. And Ryan was talking about the feeling of getting off the bus and stuff, and like you can catch that on camera if it's like faked. I think the really big reason is lot videos. Lot videos are the closest thing to that. And
Yeah, I
that
agree.
that
Is
is
that a natural
that
setting, is what
yeah
you mean?
no it is literally the closest, like it's like an National Geographic video on like literally the hype and like the I don't like the atmosphere of a lot and like drumming and everything.
I think you got to use better analogies because that National Geographic hype is.
Okay. God, whatever, you know what I mean. But what is it that like kids, like students, whatever, adults like watch the live videos, and like even if you don't know anything about drumming, like I told you, when I watched BD 2012 live, and I knew like I didn't really know much about drum corps. I mean, it was my second season, and I didn't really know much about drumming or like anything really. And I remember watching them and just the conveyance of energy from them, like just knowing they're about to go on and like win the championship.
Wouldn't it be cool if we get some context to that? I've been thinking about. Mark mentioned we had a conversation about this a few days ago, and I'm thinking a lot about it. The idea that sure we could put out lot videos, but if you can scour YouTube, right, you'll find tons of lot videos. Which, by the way, I will say, it's hard to describe for those of you who haven't experienced going into a parking lot during a show. I know it's hard because you paid for tickets or whatever, but the vibe,
the
and
energy,
the sound and the energy is so much different than that little YouTube screen can portray.
And especially at Dayton, like I always every year at Dayton that I go, I'm always like, I don't know if I want to go in or stay outside.
Yeah.
Like it's seriously like a toss
Well,
up.
most of the people that I know go to Dayton and do not buy tickets.
Yeah, you can. You can get almost get a better experience watching lots.
Yes.
Than you can in the stadium.
But those YouTube views are going to max out at only the people who are aware of what they're actually watching.
Yeah.
That's so.
Oh, you're talking about the shows?
So or even the
Or
live
the
videos,
lives.
right? If we could offer context as to what people should be looking for, are looking for.
Well, and some of the problem is you have to take the show to them. Like I think one of the things I'm really excited about and we have to lock this down yet, so I'm not saying this is definitely a thing.
There's no promises.
But we're
Disclaimer.
like one of the places we would really like to have a performance is at Knoebels, maybe Hershey Park, like places like that where like. Because we want the performances for the summer group to be like block party type vibe where we go in and it's affordable to host a show because you know what you need some portable bleachers and a space the size of a basketball court. That's
a
it.
great analogy. The whole block party. I
think that one of the most fun things I've ever done in the marching arts was the Little League parade we did with Epic 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah,
that was the most energetic and crazy wild thing.
We threw that together in what 2 hours?
2 hours.
Yeah.
Imagine what we can do
You're not
with
supposed to
a
say
month.
that out loud.
2 months.
Can we cut that? Does that? That took us several weeks to put that together. We worked real hard on that.
People were crazy at that thing. 'Cause we had those like cheap drumsticks we were throwing out. I'll never forget. Like, man, you would have thought like we were in like. I mean, I don't want to sound insensitive, but you would have thought like we were in like some third world country throwing out loaves of bread. Like I was like, we gotta like stop because these kids are gonna run under the wheels of the trailer.
Do you
over
remember,
like some firewood? Drumsticks were trash.
On stage sticks.
Yeah, and like everybody was getting like one stick. Like nobody's getting.
Do you remember like the parades? I think it was in 15 for cabs where like we'd go to, it was like 4th of July, and like we would just stop and play like the snare break in front of people. They lose their mind and like they didn't understand what we were doing.
Idea what you were
but
playing.
it was like the energy, like
But they loved it.
they absolutely loved it.
I don't know what I just saw, but I'll have more.
But the other thing there too is the missed opportunity with that was like you do that and you have them and they're like, wow, that was awesome, and then you can say like, yeah, then you can like, do you want to know more about it? Like we can have a conversation and explain, and then you can appreciate it even more. Like that's what the here, I was talking to Ryan about this, like the appreciation that goes with understanding. The more people appreciate it, the more they'll be curious about understanding it. The more they're curious about understanding it, the more they'll learn, the more they'll appreciate it, and it just feeds on itself. And like back to the NFL films thing, like that, the NFL is this giant like billion-dollar industry now, but that's, I never played a snap of football in my life. I played backyard football sometimes with my drumline friends in high school, but like I can watch a Steelers game. And be like, oh, why are you throwing on first down again? Oh, that's a holding call before the refs call it. Like, oh, that's, you know what I mean? Calling out these things before the refs are calling it. Never played football in my life, but I understand what's going on, because I've taken in content of people talking about it. I've learned about it. I've played Madden. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you know what's crazy and frustrating is I saw on like one of the drum corps pages on Facebook where it was like, and this is obviously no offense to this person, creating content of like people who don't understand the activity reacting to it. And I think that's great because it's like, oh, like even if you don't understand it, like there are people that really enjoy it. But it's like, imagine if we had people creating content that did understand it and did talk to like, then it's like people will be like, oh, like the activity's dying. This is why like nobody's doing it. It's like, yeah, because nobody's taking the initiative to create content about it. Like we make videos all the time, and most of my feed is us. Like and the BD people are doing the first rep thing. Like that's great too. But like, why isn't there? Like I was thinking about it now, and it's like I could literally see me doing this, walking up to a lot, and like whatever, like you said, like them finishing up the lot, getting ready to walk over, and me coming over with the microphone, like, oh, how'd you guys feel about that lot? Like, do you guys have a good feeling about tonight? This, and this, and just that would be so cool. That would be so great. And how's nobody done that? How
and even like
people just don't want to take the initiative, and that's why the activity is where it is, because like it doesn't even have to be somebody that completely understands. It could literally just be like a high school kid that loves the activity and be like, oh, like I really enjoyed the lot. What'd you think about it? Like, are you guys feeling good about tonight? What's your favorite part of the show? Would you guys rehearse today?
But even, you know what though? It doesn't even have to all be fluff. Like, what if it is somebody that does understand the activity? Like, I noticed like there's a couple rough reps there in the beginning, and you guys seem to like settle in.
Yeah.
What did you do to get their heads right? You know what I mean? And
But
I actually
it's
asked them like, you know, I saw some stuff there. You know,
But you know what it is? It's because like, you know, a lot of people, they get their feelings hurt, they get their egos hurt. It's like the elitism, and it's like that's not what it's about. Like if I ask that question, I like if I'm in BD's law, and like obviously 99% of people do not march BD on snare drum. I'm not there to try to talk them down or like flex my knowledge. I literally just want to learn and like understand. And it's like people can't take that the right way. And like I think the reason why is because like a lot of the activity is built around the elitism thing, and it's like if you just have the intention of like learning, like I mean I've put out videos like whatever, like small YouTube channel that like I will literally like talk smack about people that teach terribly, and the people that do teach terribly will like sometimes message me and be like, oh, I learned a lot from you, thank you so much. This is, like I'll call them out, but it's the intent. Like it's always the intent, it's the how, not the what. Like if you go about it that way, if you just go in and be like, oh well, that was really awful, dude, what'd you guys think about that? Like are you guys gonna play like that in the field? Like, oh god, you guys are about to lose drums. Like but that's the way somebody would do it in the activity because of the whole like elitism thing. And it's like we're all just here to enjoy drums. Like why can't the reason why people don't want to create content about that stuff is because they don't want to be put in that position where like if you do ask that question in a lot and somebody like freaks out about it, or like somebody gets their ego caught up, and it's
but you know what? Even those freakouts, that's the most market. I mean, this is gonna sound bad, but that's the most marketable stuff you could have.
Drama.
Like you want to blow this up and get views and clicks and stuff like that. Like that's what you need. Like natural.
You're saying that's what NFL Films is or was?
Oh, some of the coach interviews. What's the one where playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. Like coaches freaking out because somebody asked about them not like they had a terrible game, lost or whatever, and somebody was like, "How do you feel about your chances in the playoffs?"
Yeah.
And the coach is like, "Playoffs." It's like one of the most famous coach interviews ever. I mean, it's a meme. You know what I mean?
Think about if they had recorded all like our freakouts and like our own respective circuits. Like I went in on US Band's indoor that one time because like they told me to start the show and they didn't have all the judges sitting down. There's a guy taking a dump.
Oh, dude,
and I was just like, this is not okay. Like I literally freaked out on them. I was like, this is not acceptable. And people were like, oh, well, he's freaking out. I was like, yeah, other people need to learn that this is not acceptable. And you should stand up for your group when somebody doesn't coordinate something. And it's like, sure, it's like a little sensationalized, but I was genuinely passionate about the fact that they set my kids up for failure and then didn't want to take accountability for it. And I was gonna hold them accountable.
You know, I mean, even in like, sometimes I wish there was a camera in critique.
Exactly. That's what I was getting to.
You just actually had me thinking of, there should be like some exit interviewee kind of stuff with the judging community. It was like, tell me what did you see tonight?
Yeah.
You know, how'd this play out for you?
Yeah.
You know, how about that would hold some weight and you know, bring some accountability to those folks too.
And validity. Like it brings validity to the judging. Like people can't just get away with posting. Like they have to try harder. Like I mean, I don't know
if they know they're gonna have an interview, they're gonna conduct an interview at the end. Whoa.
They might not. Yeah. They might be pushed away from just adding a little bit to the score from last week. You know, they might actually evaluate.
And I'm not anticipating. I don't have a lot of hope that this is gonna happen in the circuits that exist today. But a lot of these thoughts are being talked about with like the thing we're starting, and I'm all about it. Like, let's have real conversations. About
let's have real discourse. Like that's the only way like we can come to any kind of not just conclusion, but like anything. Like just talk about it.
Back to that because we talked about it a little bit. I want to get back to the circuit idea that we have for the future. because this is really the first time we've really talked about it to anybody outside of our circle. But I one of my hopes is like I think it'll be initially appealing because they already kind of exist to the high school scene, especially high school indoor programs, because I think like it's affordable and it's accessible, but it also like for band directors out there, it's not conflicting with the PMEA stuff. It's not conflicting with the spring musical. It's not conflicting with all those other things. And the kids are being shaped up and at their peak of drumming a couple weeks before band
Just
camp.
when they need 'em.
Well, not just that.
A couple weeks before they go into fall band.
Year round. Like, I think about my high school experience, and obviously this is not the fault of my educators when I was in high school, but like, we didn't have the resources to have an indoor group. And I was one of those kids, you know, unfortunately, that just like, I like drumming, but if I didn't have a season, like I just didn't feel like drumming as much. I was like, what am I really working for? Like, I'm not doing anything. So I would finish the marching band season and then pretty much like not drum until like March, until we started marching band. And like even in the summer, like the kids that don't have that summer break, I had summer rehearsals and stuff. This would be something to keep them drumming year round. And that's what's important is like working on something all the time. Like
maybe some programs that like, they can't afford all the associated costs that go with being successful, so they opt out of it. Like, you don't need a floor, you don't need uniforms. Like, as long as the crowd likes you, that's all you're designing, for the crowd to like you and to drum well.
You just need hands and feet.
We probably should mention. I mean, aside from
jeans
the
and a
obvious,
t-shirt, great.
that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
We should mention, aside from the fact that we are Epic Percussion, that there is a very good reason why we're sticking to percussion alone and sort of not folding in the winds and the horns right off the bat, or maybe at all. A lot of it has to do with, well, I don't know if you want to cover that or
Supply versus demand.
Exactly. Yeah.
Coming from the DCA scene, because I talk to you guys about this a lot, and I'm actually not opposed to. I mean, if there's like a cool idea where a brass quartet can be incorporated, great, no problem with that.
I was gonna before you. I know you're about to go off. Like think about like this could build that culture for wind players, for other
maybe
because we don't have that. Why don't we have that demand? It's like the excitement, the validity, the realness of it. Like,
well, that could be.
Conversely, we have 130 people, attending a camp in a state outside of a drum corps' home state, right? And they're taking one snare drummer. That 119 others, they disappear into the ether.
Yep.
And you know what? Some of those are every bit as good, if not probably better, than some of the people they actually take.
Just had a bad rep.
Just had a bad rep. Just had exactly.
They were nervous. Just need a little bit more experience.
Me, stock.
So they're out there.
And how many kids like want to march at a top group and just they got enough money to do like one season, but they don't have the money to do the 3 seasons of prep with a lower tier group to get that experience. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like back to the brass thing. Like the experience in DCA for me, and it may be different for other places, but my little mini tour of ensembles I worked with is every ensemble I was ever with, and it wasn't every year it was easy, but we always filled out the percussion section, and sometimes we were turning people away. A lot of times we were turning people away, especially in the battery. And in the meantime, I never had an ensemble that had a full brass line. It didn't happen once. And a lot of the time we were like, just for the sake of getting some bodies out in the field, we were taking 5, 6, 8 kids or people that didn't really play those instruments.
Just to fill a hole.
Yeah, just to look good. And I'm just like, man.
Oh, we can't talk about that issue though. That's taboo.
Well, right. And I was just like, but it's real.
Yeah.
And I mean, maybe some of it's marketing, outreach, know-how, connection to those communities or whatever. But also maybe it's just supply versus demand. Maybe there just isn't that many I think there's other factors too. Like I think there is ensembles are taking twice as many or 3 times as many of those individuals as are taking percussionists. But I'm not even sure in the top 12 in DCI how many of the brass lines are full.
I don't know.
See many posts looking for people.
Yeah.
In some of those upper tier corps, you could fill out an entire drum corps with just the battery auditionees alone.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that absurd, the discrepancy between how many are actually doing the activity and how many are itching to do the activity, and they just disappear. That's not so. Like you're saying, not so with the horns. We're talking like the top 3 corps fill out their horn lines immediately. The others are scratching, clawing, pulling, whatever, and then on the way down the line, something like a DCA or your lower tier open class corps. I mean, like they probably shouldn't exist in their current state. So
Yeah.
it's probably, like you say, it's probably a number of factors. It's supply and demand. It's the way we portray the marching activity. I mean, just the fact alone that we have a website called or had existed, absurd. Like we need to also change the culture as to how we see this activity. And I think something like calling out our weaknesses and airing them.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not taking ourselves too seriously.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I also don't think like percussionists see themselves as band geeks. They see
Exactly.
themselves, I mean,
Yes.
Yeah.
You talk to, I mean, obviously like snare drummers are so egotistical, but like it's just like I'm not in the band, I'm in the snare line, like, and it's like it's I don't know if it's like obviously like a part of the egotism, but like the pride maybe, like I don't know, like the pride and like the effort you put in, and like I don't know, not that being a geek is bad, but like demonizing it and like trying to like offplay it, and it's like no, there's like valid effort that goes into this, and like you should be proud of what you do, and like you're not a geek, you're a musician, you are very valid in all your efforts, and like I don't feel like I get that feeling from like even kids that I've taught, like I told you I started like teaching schools in North Jersey that didn't know what drum corps was, and even in those scenarios where like they didn't know what drum corps was, I would find that the marching all the percussionists would just be more serious about it, and like they would just be more. I don't know what it is, man.
Well, and some of it, aside from just the less interest, like sometimes I had a conversation with my friend Mike. I'm not gonna say what organization he was with, but I was talking to my friend Mike one day during a rehearsal, and we were working you guys pretty hard.
Heck yeah.
And rep after rep, whatever, and trying to get after it. And he came over, and I was just talking to him for a little bit, and he's like, if we worked the horn line like that, they would all quit. And I was like, Mike, if I didn't work them like that, they would all quit.
Oh, absolutely. I would.
Like,
I would have.
Was that enlightening to him?
Yeah. I mean, he's just like, I don't understand you guys, and I was like,
Instantly.
I don't understand you guys.
Yeah.
Like, I don't understand why you'd want to pay money to be out here and not like. And it's not like it is different. Like they can't. We're not blowing our chops by doing 1 million reps. Like I get
Sure.
that. That's different, but I also think that there's more to it than that.
I've also met many horn players who call BS on that, and they're like, it's serious, but it's not that serious. And
Yeah.
like, if you were playing as much as you should be at home, then you wouldn't be suffering
What
as
else?
much.
And, you could do
you know, yeah.
you could do 1 million visual reps.
Yeah, like you can come up. I mean, I hate saying come up with infinite excuses, but it's like the same way as like we were working through them, and it's like I don't know, man. It's just a completely. I feel like I don't think it's universally different, but definitely like another planet. Like at least it's just like I don't.
But anyway, I may think things like I think GMUs, and a lot of people didn't get to see it because it was 2020 and the world
I wanted
stopped.
to see it so bad.
But I got to see the last indoor show I got to see was GMU, and they were doing like that Western show, and they had a good trumpet soloist and a good saxophone soloist in the show, and it was really cool. And like that's kind of how I see this going is like, if there's a few people like that want to do some soloing things, that great, awesome. So it's not like those things can't be incorporated, but I think that
you're taking the best of both worlds.
well, and we're looking for a trumpet trio, but they're going to be as good as the snare drums.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not going to be like we're taking
They're gonna work
to
as
fill
hard.
out some quota of numbers. We're going to take 6 people who can't play the instruments, because I think it's you know what I'm saying. Like
I think it's also just generally harmful. Like I think like a lot of those people just never want to do it again, and they're like, oh, why would I want to do this if this is what I'm doing? Like I'm just filling a hole. I'm not really like contributing, committing, or whatever.
Yeah,
like
it's a weird thing.
It's like I don't know, man. I can't like obviously speak from experience, but like I would not want to be there like fake playing a snare drum. Like there comes a lot of pride from actually hitting the drum and like feeling good about like your achievement on it. Like
and there's no way to hide. Like we're out there. One thing it's like
oh, you think that's part of the problem? Because they can hide? Because that would be like I had the fear of God because it's like there were 8 snare drummers, and even if
okay, let's go into it. Yeah, a lot of people, and I'm not the expert on brass or anything like that. I'm not gonna claim to be, but Carolina Crown brass is the thing.
Yeah,
and they're pretty dominant. They're pretty at the top of the game. And there's some other groups out there that are as good, but at Crown, I think people talk about Crown's brass line. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
We used to host them at Williamsport just a couple years, probably like 8 years ago or whatever. We used to host them. They would come up and practice for 2 days at the high school, and it was like at the end of the season. They're like in between East and finals, and I would go watch the brass sectionals because I'm like, what are they doing? What are they doing? And you know what I saw? Because I didn't see this anywhere else. And it's genius, it's genius, it's genius. And you know what I saw when I saw the trumpet sectionals? I saw them operating exactly like I've seen a million snare sectionals before, where it was like an individual play by yourself, put rhythms and time, play to your feet. Match sound, match volume, match blend and balance. It was just nuts and bolts. Things that are like things that we do in drumline that like are pretty common knowledge. On that side of the fence, it was like genius and brilliant and exceptional. It's like I think there is a lot of ensembles out there that just don't like. I think it's harder. Like it's easier first. You can tell when somebody's overplaying because you can see it.
Yeah.
So I think it's a little bit easier to identify, but you just got to get under the hood. And I just think a lot of ensembles don't get under the hood like that. I think that was a huge factor in the success that they have with that program is they just
100% participation at 100% capacity,
and the staff is under the hood.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. You think it's a staffing issue? You think it's because there's so many more brass players that they can't do that because they don't have the staff? But even if you don't have the staff right, you should try. I mean, I don't know. I don't think it'd be a waste of time. Like if you spend a whole block cleaning something with every person, it's like. We talked about it with Grant the other day when he was like, his front ensemble person. I don't remember what his name was. I'm sorry, but he was just like, we work very differently. He goes kid to kid, and he was making sure that every one of them. And we're here like trying to rep as a battery ensemble, and like they're doing different things. But like he would take the whole block to make sure they can play this passage right. And by the end of the season, they had committed that work to every single section, even though it was just one of him and whatever.
Well, story time.
Yeah.
Here's what I think happens in a lot of groups. And this is just based on my observation. I can't speak for everybody, the whole activity, whatever. I'm not trying to do that, but just differences from places I've seen to what I saw with Crown that day. I was teaching a group, and what I saw was we would spend a lot of time in sectionals, and the staff had very specific goals and things they were working on, lining up timing things, blend and balance things, very just grinding, And I'm not trying to micromanage, but I would get frustrated sometimes because what I observed from the horn line was they were always playing chorales and these warm-ups that I didn't notice a lot of technical skills being worked on, but it felt good and we could play loud. And then they would high five, rah, rah, rah. Then we get into ensemble rehearsal. And we have this feature where the trumpets and the tenors play together, right? And the tenor thing that went along with it was pretty syncopated. It was kind of hard rhythms to line up, but it fit the music. It was fine. But we're tearing. The ensemble can't play together. And they're not even moving. Like it's just they're standing still. They're staged together. They're playing this feature together, and the trumpets can't line it up with the tenors. And it's trumpets. The trumpets can play in time. And the brass staff was trying to say it was the tenor writing. They can't find time because of the tenor writing. And I had kind of a jerk of me. I admit, I had the tenors play quarter note gok shots on the Spock drum, and then we listened to the trumpets fall apart. And
rough.
and my
times.
My comment to the rough times, straight up rough times. My comment to that instructor was maybe instead of playing chorales and high fiving, you guys should have been breaking down the feature beat by beat.
And is it? I don't know if it's like a standards thing. Like I don't think it's really because if it was, they would take that
Wasn't
the right
long
way.
after that I got fired.
Well, that narrows it down.
There it is. But like I don't know if it's like a standards thing or they just fundamentally don't understand how to. I don't want to say just music, but they just fundamentally don't understand how to work on something.
Well, chorales are very, very useful for developing a good quality of sound. But that quality of sound doesn't matter when often you need to hear that sound for the duration of like half a second versus Come to Jesus in whole notes.
Or if you're out of time, like
the quality.
I'm not trying to turn this podcast into we're going after brass players.
Let's do this.
But I will say a lot of ensembles I've worked with, I've noticed that like there's a huge emphasis on tone quality and intonation and all those things. And that's important. Great, that's important. Playing rhythms in time is also very important, and articulating in the same way is also very important. And I don't see those things focused on the same way, with the exception of like Crown. Obviously, when I was watching them, they valued those things and they were on that stuff. But like, that's a problem because it doesn't matter how good your intonation is if your ensemble is not together and they're playing two different notes at the same time.
Yeah.
just because they're a beat apart.
A right note in the wrong place is a wrong note.
Like now your intonation is bad because your timing is bad. You know what I mean? Like so it's those things are related.
We were talking about it the other day. We were talking about something the other day, and I compared it to like, doesn't matter if I have a first class ticket on a plane if I miss the plane.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the quality's there. Like I paid for the ticket. I can fly. But if I miss my flight, it doesn't matter. Like you miss the timing, it doesn't. It does matter. You can still play well, but you're not playing in time. So it's a big part of music. I'm also like let me play. I guess devil's advocate on the brass player side. Like you think it's because playing drums is just that? It's just playing rhythms, and we don't have to. I mean, we do have to country and sound. Obviously, that's a big thing. I argue that it's like almost more important than playing rhythms, but like. Is it because like we can play rhythms and be in time and not so much worry about the sound like a horn line has to worry about the sound?
Actually, I would say this is where I think, and this is a topic for a different day, but there are some things that percussion, and even battery specifically, can learn from the ideas of chorale playing.
I'm sure, yeah.
You know, I think singing or speaking is
Audiation.
Audiation
I
is as
love it.
important
Absolutely.
as using a metronome all the time. We don't do it nearly enough.
No.
Yeah.
Audiation is
That is like, and I try to do that, especially
Yeah.
with counting rhythms. Like
Yeah,
I
right.
have
Yeah.
especially high school kids.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like we're like marking time and counting the rhythm before we even try to play it.
Yep.
Yeah, but
especially at the beginning.
With the front ensembles, I usually if they're having trouble with a spot, it's like, all right, let's stop, let's count it each individually. Now let's clap it together. Now let's play it.
That-
now
That's
let's
the way.
let's say it with felt meaning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
This
on
is
top
the
of that,
way.
like even like how to listen for blend and balance. I don't see a lot of drum lines. I see a lot of drum lines failing at this. Is like I would talk to drum lines, especially when I was lines you were in, stuff like that. We would always like snare line, listen in for timing and clarity. But ensemble, we listen to the bottom bass drum. Like we always listen down, just like the brass line would listen down to the tubas. You know what I mean? And like if the tap sound of the snare drums is overbalancing the bass drums or underbalancing the bass drums, you don't have so going for a full balanced ensemble where you're balancing to the lowest tone of the ensemble is, I think, brings your battery sound to a whole different level, especially in 2D phrases. And I agree. I don't think that stuff is talked about enough. And sometimes I think at the high school level, that's down the list a little bit. Let's all hit the
He's
drums
trying to- yeah,
together.
exactly.
But I do, when people go up to the next level, I don't see it always translating.
I think at the high school level, that's more important within the walls of the school day. That should be. And by the way, I don't want to derail our conversation about our particular ensemble too. So we have our own. Basically, we have a lot of our own stuff in house that has to be, worked out from a percussion standpoint before venturing into like the whole larger ensemble, concepts. But again, maybe supply and demand is really the heart of the issue.
Yeah.
But also, why not both, right? Why not rhythms and sound?
Yeah. Well, I mean, not to be, we're focusing on what, if, Epic Brass is out there somewhere and they want to start a summer brass tour, go ahead.
Yeah, right.
Like our percussion is what we know. That's why we're doing percussion.
For sure.
But yeah, is there anything?
I don't have anything more to say on that.
I think that I just want to get some details out for the, if you haven't seen the videos and all the different content we're putting out about the summer drumline program, we are starting this Saturday, April 17th. There's 2 ensembles. There's the Epic Cadets ensemble. They are going to rehearse from 10:30 to 12:30 in the morning. I guess 12:30 is technically the afternoon, but morning to afternoon, and that is for students that are going into 5th grade to going into 8th grade. And you don't have to have any background or anything for that. If you just think drum lines are cool and you want to do it, we're trying to train kids younger, get them involved in the marching drumming thing a little bit earlier. And then the older ensemble, we go 2 to 9. There's an hour dinner break, a catered dinner break. You need $6 for dinner. Eat and Run Catering, the best food, the best food.
sticky buns.
And we're rehearsing at 2600 Reach Road. Look for the pickup truck, the white pickup truck with rust and a trailer. I'll just say there's a trailer, black trailer attached to it, and you'll probably see drums and people. We won't be, I mean, there's details on the other videos. I'm not going to get into all the specifics and everything, but we're super excited about it. We'll be recruiting for the ensemble till the end of the month. We're going to start actually learning the show production at the beginning of May. So we want to recruit throughout this month. If you want to do it, but you can't make the first thing or the second thing or whatever, just let us know. Reach out to us. You can email Marc, M-A-R-C, at epicpercussion.com. You can go to our website, epicpercussion.com, to register. You can also find our contact information there if you want to call or if you have any questions. But we hope to see a lot of people. We hope this really takes off. I mean, I'm sure you can tell we're super excited about this. That's all I got. Anything else?
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for joining us on Rough Times. Please like, subscribe, share with your friends, share with your enemies. Thank you.